Okay, so I'm going to try and start the music and fade it out and read the intro and then fade it out some more.
Okay. Good luck.
It's going to be fun. All right. Welcome to the Code Monkey Podcast, Season 3, Episode 6. A new Earth has been found around Alpha Centauri. Self-driving Ubers are happening sooner than you think, and NASA's going public with their science. All this and more, so don't touch that radio dial. I'm your host, Kevin Giese, and with me, as always, is renowned French poet and mathematician. It's Alex Bragdon. Alex, how the heck are you doing?
I'm doing quite well, Kevin. How are you?
I'm doing incredible.
Wow. Incredible.
Incredible.
It means like you can... What, like you're super
you
strong?
You should doubt how
can
well
you run
I am
really
doing.
Fast?
No.
Can you like stretch your arms? Like, can you turn into a big rock?
No,
like,
I'm just happier than you should give me credit for.
Why? Why? I should
because
assume
that's what incredible
really happy.
Means.
Incredible? What? No, that doesn't mean that. Incredible means you have a superpower of some sort. Haven't you seen The Incredibles?
Alex, I don't think you should be talking about movies.
Well, why not?
Empire Strikes Back is the worst Star Trek movie.
That's why not. Because you have these these crazy opinions about movies.
I mean, does anyone want to debate me on the fact that The Empire Strikes Back is indeed the worst Star Trek movie?
You know what I think? You know what I think that a debate would be, Alex?
What
fun
do you think
times with Fun Times McGee.
So you just like playing with new electronics on this podcast. That's the whole point of the podcast, I guess. You can just use electronics to play back past Alex at Alex.
Yes, exactly. So we finally I have a soundboard now, which is amazing because we talked about this on the last episode that now that we're starting to record stuff live, record stuff live, not broadcast it live, though who knows, at some point, maybe, I don't know. We don't know if the internet can handle it. We haven't tested any of that, so I shouldn't even hint about that. But now that we're recording it live, we want to, need to pipe in the intro music into the into the actual input stream so that it ends up on the video, because otherwise I'd be like trying to estimate where the time is, and if we want to have the intro music on the actual video clip, then I need to have basically a soundboard to pipe all this stuff back in.
Yep.
So now that I have a soundboard, which is very exciting, I have all of these wonderful clips.
Just me, I might add. There's none of Kevin on this board.
Well, so I haven't gone through and curated like random things, but I did go through while I was editing. And by the way, now I don't really have to do much editing. I basically just play through at double speed and listen until Alex hits the mic, and then cut his mic out, and then that's the end of it. But of course, since I have to. Thank you. But since I have to listen to Alex hit his mic all the time, occasionally he'll say something funny, such as,
"We're done here. We can just kind of pack up and go eat Smurfs."
And I go, "Hey, you know what? That is a wonderful thing to extract and then put on the soundboard to live in perpetuity."
Okay, I'm going to say this right now. If we ever get to this point where this podcast has 10,000 active listeners, I will...
Fun Times with Fun Times McGee.
Yep.
I will take that Smurfs quote, I'll put it on a shirt, and I'll wear it for a week straight.
Alrighty, wow. There we go. Well, here's the problem with podcasts, is it is really hard to know numbers about anything at all.
Well, there you go.
This is completely unverifiable. Although, there are some places where there are better numbers. So we are now on SoundCloud, and we are on YouTube. We did make a big hoopla about being on YouTube in the last episode, but we are also on SoundCloud. I didn't want to promise at the time. Other people have motorcycles outside. That's pretty cool. Good on you, motorcyclists. Is the summer over yet?
From your perspective, all motorcycles are outside.
Well, okay, that's true. All right.
Yes, it is true.
But yes, the point is that we are on SoundCloud as well. And now we can actually see, like, oh, look, there are some people watching / listening to us, because those platforms tell us these things. We can make inferences about how many times files were accessed and stuff with the RSS feed or the website and things like that. But it's not quite the same as actual kind of view tracking in the traditional sense of YouTube and SoundCloud type stuff. So that's exciting. We actually have listeners, Alex. It's crazy.
I know. We have viewers. We had almost 100 views on that YouTube video, which was crazy.
I know.
Crazy.
I'm actually rather surprised because we uploaded the entire back catalog of everything.
Or you did.
Well, I was trying to be generous.
But you also lied.
Okay, yes, it was a generous lie. That's how my generosity manifests itself. I don't know.
Oh, okay. How magnanimous.
So because there is an issue with YouTube in that if you publicize things in the wrong order, then the upload feed gets there's no way to reorder things once you've uploaded them. So I made sure to basically every video went public staggered about 10 to 15 minutes out.
Yeah, my subscription feed noticed.
That's the thing, is that the subscription, if people who did subscribe, I apologize, but the subscription feed, I suppose it's possible that I could have just put all of the back catalog public like a week earlier or something, but whatever. It was down to the wire on a lot of that stuff. So, so you're the type of person who really uses your YouTube subscription feed a lot, and you subscribed. Thank you for bearing with the 29.
Also, the algorithm won't show you anything new for now on. Just the YouTube algorithm, if you don't click through and watch every subscription, it's going to deprioritize it.
No, that's not true. If you it'll ignore the stuff that is there before you subscribed, I think.
Well, true, but if was anyone subscribed when
No one was subscribed, which was very depressing. Like YouTube, if you typed in YouTube Code Monkey Podcast, the channel had been sitting around there with nothing uploaded for a couple weeks. Nobody subscribed. Nobody thought to look.
I did subscribe, but not till this morning. So,
all right. Well, I'm glad we finally crossed your threshold of interestingness.
I'm on top of this.
Right.
Oh man. Oh. But yeah, you've done a lot of cool stuff and a lot of things. I put this in the notes. I was curious. Did you have anything interesting?
So I did. Yeah. So you added in the show notes, don't read this bullet on the podcast. Oh.
Yeah, that was just that one bullet.
Oh, okay.
You weren't supposed to read that one. Oh, good job.
Shoot. Sorry.
All right. Anyway, no, I was just curious if you had anything that you did that was interesting when you were rewriting sort of the back end of anything.
No, it was all sort of trivial and boring and easy.
What did you write it in?
Well, okay, so basically what we had initially had up on the site was I took a crack at just I'm just going to design a site from scratch. And I'm going to write a rake task, which is the Ruby version of make. Which doesn't explain things to people who are listening to us and don't know anything about code, but basically it's a scripting system.
Right.
And, the idea is that it'd just kind of incrementally add stuff to the site. It'd put, MP3s in the right folders. It'd tag the MP3s with the various subscription stuff. And that was working pretty well until we got to maybe more than 5 episodes, at which point...
was re-uploading all of them every time.
Well,
right?
So a couple of things. So one, it was re-uploading all of the MP3s all the time. I did take a look at our Amazon costs for the month.
Oh no.
So the costs for the month were $6 in transfer fees and 10 cents in hosting fees.
Good.
So, it's still fine. But
it's been cheaper to buy SD cards and mail the podcast to everyone.
Exactly. At that point. Well, it's mostly just that Amazon has very disproportionate pricing for serving files versus uploading and moving files. Yeah. But anyway, so it was not great, and also the homepage, there was no pagination, so the homepage was very scrollable. It was a very, very tall. You end up with 30 episodes. That's.
I also liked how the old site you had this blinking cursor in the logo, and when it blinked, the whole site blinked.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, so all the text in the player and stuff would blink. I only noticed it some of the time, so I think it was only in some browsers.
I never encountered that. Man, you should have said anything. This is the first time hearing of this.
Well, the old site's gone now, so I don't mind telling you.
Man.
I didn't want to complain. I figured you would have known.
No, I had no idea.
Okay.
I could have fixed that, probably. I don't know.
Well, I'm sure you could have.
I was proud of that. No, because we had, it was kind of like a terminal editor type of thing with a little blinking cursor. Yeah. And I was like, that's really clever. It's going to fit with the Code Monkey podcast theme and stuff. And I was all proud of that. No, it just ruins the whole site. Okay.
No,
cool.
It didn't ruin the site. It was just kind of funny that some of the text would flash.
Okay. Well, anyway, so now we've updated stuff. So I wanted to make sure that all of the videos had the appropriate metadata, and all the SoundCloud stuff had all the appropriate metadata as well. So now what we're doing is we're using Jekyll, which is a blog hosting platform for static sites. By static, it means that the files are written ahead of time. Generally, with websites, there are kind of two ways that you can do things. You can have some files where you just go, hey, here's a file. And then if I go to the URL that corresponds to that file, you just see whatever's in the file. Or there are dynamic sites where these are places where typically you would log in and create stuff and whatever. And basically, if I try and visit the page, then some server somewhere goes, oh, someone's asking for something. Let me build them what I think they're looking for and return it back to them.
Yeah.
WordPress is an example of generally a dynamic site. Even though it doesn't have to be, you go ahead, you write your words into your CMS. And then when someone goes, hey, I want to see this article, then the server goes, oh, someone's asking for this thing. Let me go pull all this information together and give it to them.
Google is also a dynamic site.
Yes.
Because it doesn't just have pre-generated every possible 100-character search term.
Right. But our site is static. It is pre-generated all of the things.
Can we pre-generate it up to 5 years in advance or something?
Oh, that'd be really helpful, actually.
So that way we just have the podcast done.
Right. Oh, man. That'd be brilliant. That'd free up so much time.
Also, we could use that to we'd just read off the lottery numbers or something in a podcast, and then we'd pre-generate it.
What is it with you and lottery numbers?
It's an easy way to prove time
Not
travel.
a sponsor, everybody. I just feel like I need to get that out there.
Sponsored by the concept of lottery numbers. I didn't mention a specific lottery.
No, that is certainly true. But no, so it's a Jekyll hosted site. It was also important to me that we have links to be able to share individual episodes. So that if people want to be able to share out individual episodes, that's a possibility. So now it is, the site is has individual things. It has the SoundCloud embed on it, and a link to the YouTube video, so people can share out the thing, and it's all great. Maybe we should add comments, but I feel like that's too many different places.
SoundCloud can be the comments. If you want to leave comments, tweet at us, talk to us on Reddit, or leave us a comment on SoundCloud.
Or, as we always ask,
or the moon.
Leave us an iTunes review. Come on, Alex.
Yeah, I don't know. You broke iTunes when you did this, by the way.
I did. Well, okay, so I should finish up the story. So in addition to the blog is great. And Jekyll, basically the way that you write a blog is you have what's called the front matter. And this is just a whole bunch of key and value pairs. You say the post type is a podcast, and the title is this, and the date published is this, and basically you're dealing with plain text files.
Could you set the date into the future theoretically?
Yes, you can.
That's pretty nifty.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So you just type all of this stuff out, and then you type the contents of the blog post below.
What happens if you set the date to past 2036 or 2038?
That I don't know. I would imagine it would be completely fine.
But maybe not.
Someone try it and let us know in an iTunes review.
Yes, there we go.
So anyway, so this is basically how Jekyll posts work. And with a normal blog, like my website is, my cheerskevin.com uses Jekyll as well, because it's just for writing regular blogs. That's what it's designed for.
Well, I usually use Hide, but
Right. Hide is another one. You were making a joke, but that actually is a thing. I apologize.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is a thing.
It actually is a thing.
Of course it is.
But anyway, so generally that front matter is pretty small. It's like, here's the title, maybe here's the subtitle, maybe here's, the layout that I want to use or whatever. Generally the configuration parameters that you'd use in something like WordPress.
Okay.
But I decided, hey, since we've got these key value pairs, I'm going to use that to log all of the information about the podcast
RSS
episode.
feed?
No, all of the metadata about the episode. So, the show notes are in there, the short description is in there, the authors of the podcast are in there.
Who's that?
That's both of us, actually. Weirdly enough.
I thought it would be like J.K. Rowling. But okay.
No.
I guess we're not that well written.
No.
Darn.
Well,
can we get Alex Yarsh in next time?
She's ghostwriting the podcast, really.
Oh, J.K. Rowling?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Doesn't want her name to be associated with this project, but
needs
the work.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Needs the work.
She gave all her money away to charity,
but not the reputation.
She gave all her money away to charity, and now she,
exactly.
Can't,
what are you going to do?
Anything.
But anyway, so it's got things like the duration, and so then I wrote a library that basically will take these posts, take the MP3s that we've exported, and tag them all with the ID3 tags which is a thing where that iTunes and all your media players will use to figure out, oh, here's where the cover artwork is, and here's the title and description and various metadata about the thing. So it'll generate that, and then it'll go ahead and it'll upload them to SoundCloud, and then log the SoundCloud ID in the post, and then you can associate a YouTube video with it. So then when you go to publish everything, it'll go to SoundCloud and make that track public. It'll go to YouTube and change the title and description to match whatever's in the post, and then make the YouTube video public, and then put everything on the post so that the SoundCloud embed is all in there.
So when you post to the blog, it basically updates everything automatically?
Yes. The one exception is that I have to manually upload the YouTube videos. And then just copy the ID and put it in the post so it knows what the association is.
So it's all automatic, is what you're saying. So I could replace you with a soundboard of me.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. In fact, you may have already done that.
We're done here. We can just kind of pack up and go eat Smurfs.
So
yep. Delicious Smurfs.
Now, I will say the one thing, and we were talking about this before the podcast started, but the thing about this soundboard is that it's velocity sensitive. So
that means if you throw it out the window, it can tell.
Well, yes, at high speeds, it plays different sounds. No, so basically, if I hit these pads at different velocities, to guess not a word that most, different forces.
You just have clapping. So whenever I say something great, we choose to go to the moon.
Yeah, there you go. Well done. Oh. But yeah, which is kind of frustrating because it means that when I go to play the Code Monkey podcast, which probably isn't audible for people who are listening to this at a reasonable volume.
I can hear it. Maybe I'm...
There we go. Now it's loud. So now I have to be careful. Like, I have to hit these things very firm. I've tuned it basically so that the audio level should be good when it's loud, I think.
Hooray.
But yeah, so now I have to be careful about exactly how the soundboard works. But anyway, so yeah, the podcast is definitely coming along. Doing everything we can to make sure that everything is available wherever you most prefer to enjoy the podcast.
Except the moon. Yeah, we have no moon-based outlets.
I assumed that all of our intergalactic distribution was kind of your part. Your like.
I guess you did task me with that at one point.
Yeah, like I was pretty like I am managing a lot of things for this podcast. I think that the moon and Mars could just be like small things that you bother to get done.
Next week, the podcast will be available exclusively on the Deep Space Network and nowhere else.
Wow, that'd be very exciting, actually.
I mean, I could probably do it. It's a known frequency and known receivers. I just have to get a big enough. I just have to get a big enough transmitter and point it at the right receiver, and it'll just repeat it across the Deep Space Network.
Is that
MIT's got a big enough transmitter, and I'm pretty close.
Is that true?
I'm sure it is.
Things will get relayed. Is there no?
Maybe there's encryption.
Now I'm curious though. Like, it feels. Do you encrypt? I guess you have to. I imagine there are probably some military aspects to some of the crafts that use the Deep Space Network, and so there is military grade encryption on some of the stuff. So that Russia's not like, oh my God, there are rocks on Mars. Ah, ha, ha, we have discovered your secrets. Like,
I'll look into this. I will look in, and I will guarantee I'll figure it out by next week. So the podcast will be available exclusively on the Deep Space Network.
We shouldn't make that problem. The exclusivity is the bane of...
So, if you want to listen to next week's podcast, there's only one place you need to be, and that's on Earth 2.
Aha! I need a rim shot. That's not a good rim shot. I need a I need a cymbal crash. It is the rim shot sample that came with this, but
it's terrible.
It is. It is. Like that's a hit. It's not a crash. Anyway.
Yeah. So we found Earth 2, by the way.
Yeah. Okay. So yes, Matt Williams on phys.org, which is like, that's the coolest name for a site ever. It's PHYS.
The coolest name for a site ever is Alex Bragdon is cool.
Ever?
.com.
Okay.
.org.
Yeah, we'll get into TLDs a little later in the podcast. But
Okay.
Matt Williams on Fizz.org reports the German weekly Der Spiegel. I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing that correctly because it's very fun to pronounce. Der Spiegel. Spiegel. Announced recently that astronomers have discovered an Earth-like planet orbiting Proxima Centauri. Do you know why they call it Proxima Centauri, Alex?
Because it's approximately right next to a McDonald's.
Because it's approximately Centaur. I don't know. I shouldn't.
It's approximately a centaur?
Just 4.25 light
What?
years away. Citing anonymous sources, which is always a key phrase to pay attention to, the magazine stated the still nameless planet is believed. Why is it? Oh, well, no, that's an opportunity. The still nameless planet is believed to be Earth-like and orbits at a distance to Proxima Centauri that could allow it to have liquid water on its surface, an important requirement for the emergence of life. Never before have scientists discovered a second Earth that is so close by.
I'd like to point out that this article is actually a little bit out of date.
Well, yes, because you have your second article from space.com.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Your go-to source for all podcast notes.
No. I mean, the one piece of information I don't think is touched on in the second article that was incorrectly cited in the first article was that it's unnamed.
Wait, so it is named?
Yeah. It's called Alex Bragdon's planet.iscool.org. .com.http.me.
Well, okay, so you linked a second article, which actually expands on this a little bit.
Yeah.
According to Mike Wall on space.com, scientists with the ESO, which stands for Extrasensory Observations, will announce the find later this month, according to Der Spiegel, which cited an unnamed astrophysicist. There's another key phrase to pay attention to on the Discovery team as its source. ESO officials neither confirmed nor denied the report. We were surprised to see the article in Der Spiegel and do not know the source. ESO spokesman Richard Hook told Space.com via email. ESO has no further comments to make at present.
So I thought it was weird because it sort of calls into the validity of this article. Because I don't know why Elder Scrolls Online would have anything to do with finding planets of other stars.
You were listening to what I explained, the acronym, Alex. This is why you're confused. It's not Elder Scrolls Online. This is Extrasensory Observations.
It's actually the European Southern Observatory.
Oh, well, that's interesting to know.
It's some sort of observatory in
that seems
Southern
way less cool
Europe.
than our two suggestions.
I agree.
What do those people know about space?
Well, probably quite a bit.
All right. Well, so we probably should have just looked and seen if the Der Spiegel article had like an English translation.
It doesn't. I mean, it's an unnamed and not. It's like the report.
It does
really
not
doesn't
have an English translation, but I will
You
try
can
and read it for you
translate.
anyway. Proxima Centauri ist der von und Algesehen.
I'm so sorry. I apologize to all our German listeners.
Yeah.
In fact, I apologize to all our listeners.
Ist der von und ausgesehen. Yeah, no idea.
Or watchers.
Our watchers. Well, here's the thing, though. I don't know how dense German it. Well, no, I know the German words are very dense, but this is a mere 5 paragraphs of German reporting.
Oh, that's like
as a non-German speaker, this is what I could say about this news story. It is 5 paragraphs long, which seems about as suspect as the anonymous sources part.
Yeah, we have more
articles.
paragraphs in our show notes for this episode than that.
Yes, in fact, we have more paragraphs on this story.
Well, that's not quite.
Well, we have 5 bullet points on this story.
Plus the title that says
that's
Alpha Centaurs.
Yes, Alpha Centaurs, presumably the name of this planet, right?
No, I told you. It's alex.http.issocool.me.
See, you've changed this now.
/.alex.
See, is the
.com.
Does the name
.ninja.
change on a regular basis? Is this like the Pirate Bay of planets? Like,
it's a dynamic site, so it's generated with a PHP script I threw together.
Oh, okay. Well, that would explain a lot of things.
I'm sure it would, Kevin. I'm sure it would.
So, yeah, new planet, and potentially Proxima Centauri, which would be awesome because 4.25 light years away. And we did actually on an earlier episode of the podcast cue the continuity editor to let us know.
We calculated how long it would take various spacecraft to make it.
Exactly.
Centauri. especially the EM drive, which could get there quite quickly.
Yes, but if I remember right, the issue was acceleration. So despite it being 4.25 light years, and even assuming that you can get up to 4.25 light years, the EM drive's acceleration meant that it was going to take, I think, what was it, 9 years from Earth's perspective?
Yeah, that's still like nothing.
It's a long time. We still can't go to Mars yet, man.
And those calculations were just using, like, I believe I made those calculations to try to convince you that the EM drive could possibly be cool, using like a space shuttle amount of mass and then AA amount of power.
This is not a double A. No, it's not a AA amount of power.
It was like literally the benchtop tests stuck to a space shuttle. Like, it was not scaled appropriately at all. And it was like a space shuttle with a full tank. So I think you might be able to get there faster than my original calculations.
To be fair, I don't think that I think a space shuttle is underestimating the amount of mass that you would need if you were going to be in space for 10 years.
So, certainly.
So
it's not in scale with a benchtop test.
I don't know, man.
I do know. I know everything.
Wow, that's very impressive.
It is. I don't know how I don't have a PhD, to be honest.
Well, so here's the thing that it's kind of... you've still got the whole, if there are aliens, why haven't they contacted us problem?
Well, I mean, just because a planet is habitable doesn't mean it would have developed life, let alone, like...
Oh, right, I'm just more reading into like the parts of the article that are like, oh, it has liquid water, an important requirement for the emergence of life, so who knows?
So I was reading... I wish I remembered anything about this article, but like... Apparently...
Well, I'm glad you're bringing it up for us now.
Like, there really hasn't been that enough time. We're fairly early in, like, the lifespan of the universe. Like, the universe has far more time left in it. Far, far, far more time than has been.
I know, like, it's got, like, at least 30 more years.
Yeah, at least 30 years. At the very minimum.
Right.
But, like, 13 billion years really isn't...
No way we're not going to be around for at least another 30.
Yeah, but like 13 billion years really isn't that much time on sort of a galactic scale. And so I've seen some interesting stuff, like this one particular article was like, we're kind of not expecting to see any other life because it just hasn't been enough time, which I thought was sort of an interesting perspective.
So this is the Fermi paradox, right?
Right, yeah.
I was Googling it to make sure I'm like not talking.
There's that whole like XKCD about it.
Right. So so your solution to the Fermi paradox is it makes sense that we haven't contacted any aliens. We are the first ones to exist ever.
Well, in our reference frame.
Right. Or within our local group.
Yeah. Yeah. Within the local group.
The local group pretty much being the area of space that we will ever be able to get to ever.
Unless we can build a warp drive.
Yes, unless we can break the speed of light, the local group is pretty much, that's the max.
It's a group of galaxies.
Very tiny little bucket of stars.
Well, no.
By which I mean trillions upon billions of trillions.
It's a fair handful of galaxies that are close enough to be gravitationally bound.
And the people making these estimates have pretty big hands.
Yeah.
So, like when you say handful, that's not like a handful of Skittles.
No, not at all.
No.
It's a handful of many Skittles.
Okay. There we go. Good that we clarified.
Yes. So they're like gravitationally locked together. So the Milky Way is gravitationally bound to the Andromeda Galaxy. In fact, so much so that they're going to crash into each other.
Woo.
In fact,
that's going to be fun.
Given enough time, I think all of the galaxies in the local group are going to coalesce.
I believe given enough time, everything is... Oh, no. We get heat death. Yeah. That used to be the resounding theory, and it's no longer anymore. Because space is expanding, and we still don't know entirely why.
Which could be another fundamental force of nature. There may be more than 4 fundamental forces.
Ooh. So then you're just going to be like, there's no dark matter. There's just some crazy additional force that actually...
There's the dark force.
The dark force. Okay. Okay.
It's really a dark horse force, really. No one's really sure if it's there or not.
Oh, man. Okay.
Wild card.
So, yeah, potential Earth-like planet around Proxima Centauri. Now, this is exciting for, I guess for me, for one particular reason. don't
Really
have
just
any
one.
no expectation of there being intelligent life at all.
Oh, not at all.
Um,
We'd hear that, and they'd hear us.
and well, would we though?
Yeah, 4.5 light years is nothing.
Right, but we have a hard time chatting with Voyager.
Yeah, but we'd notice the signal. Like, you could tell when something was singing, so to speak. Like, there'd be EM radiation.
So you're just
all over the
imagining
place.
like this big planet of people holding hands, like chanting, like "Earth, notice us, please."
No, I mean, like it might not be perhaps easily detectable, like actual information, but you can detect that some like static on the radio. Even if you can't hear what's happening, you know when you're close to another station because like so we'd like static and just random emissions coming through on your radio. Even if you can't tell what they're saying.
Yeah.
The same type of thing would happen.
Yes.
We'd be able to detect I mean, if they're transmitting at anywhere near the same amounts of levels we are, like how far is our detectable EM sphere? I want to say it's like 100 light years or something.
Is it?
Detectable. See, we can't do this lookup. You can't edit it anymore. So one of us has to look up, and the other one has to keep talking.
I tried to look. I can't. I don't know.
Sphere.
Oh, there we go. How far have radio signals traveled from Earth?
Well, but the question is, how long is it detectable? Because they're going to spread out, and they're going to get thinner and thinner. It's 4. I'm certain beyond like 99% certainty that 4.5 light years away, you can definitely detect things.
Okay. No. So here's the article, which I'll now have to add to the show notes.
Okay.
It says, let's see. As depicted in the beginning of the movie Contact, the Earth has a bubble of man-made radio signals expanding outward at the speed of light. First, these early radio transmissions were short range that use simple clicks and interrupts. And that means that at 110 light years away from Earth, the edge of a radiosphere, which contains many star systems, our very first radio broadcasts are beginning to arrive.
Right.
And this site hijacks Scroll. Jerks. Which has, all right. Now, here's a title or thing here, though. Will any extraterrestrial life within that radiosphere detect us?
Yeah.
And let's read on and find out. Well, it's interesting to imagine how far our radio signals have traveled in space. It's extremely unlikely that an alien civilization will be able to catch the latest episode of I Love Lucy. This is thanks to the inverse square law. In layman's terms, it's a form of signal degradation.
Yep.
Because of the inverse square law, all our terrestrial radio signals become indistinguishable from background noise at around a few light years from Earth.
Right. Around a few light years.
Yeah. I'm going to say a few means 3.
No, it means
3.
At least 5.
3.
I'm going to say at least 5, which 4.5 is comfortably within.
All right. Well, let us know in a SoundCloud comment or a YouTube comment. Or an
iTunes review.
No,
or
an iTunes review. What is your definition of a few?
Right. This is very important all of a sudden.
Right. Exactly. These definitions matter because depending on your definition of a few, this article means something completely different.
Yes. So,
depending on what you believe a few means, people on Alpha Centauri could hear us or possibly could not. But I mean, one thing that would be certain is that if we were to go out there on some sort of huge colony ship,
well, yeah,
it'd be a real pain to stay in touch.
Well, not as big a pain as it could be.
No, not as big a pain as it could be.
You just have to send all your messages 4.5 years in advance, and then it's fine.
No, that as well, but also just in terms of detecting the radio signals, really difficult.
Well, I mean, we can do directional... Like, they're saying that you couldn't see I Love Lucy that was on a random, like, TV terrestrial broadcast. Right. They're not saying if you had a directional beam that you wouldn't be able to pick it up.
I don't know. Voyager's on a directional beam.
Yeah. And it's powered by, like, nothing.
Yeah,
like,
which is
just
impressive.
A little bit of plutonium that they happen to have lying around, just randomly decaying in space is driving this thing. Like, I think we'd be okay. I'm confident that we'd be able to communicate with Alpha Centauri, not Alpha Proxima.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to remember what the distinction is between Proxima Centauri and Alpha Centauri. Alpha Centauri is the planet, right? Also a great video game.
Yes. Yes, it
that
is.
was a fantastic video game, and it was like completely configurable because you could just edit. You could edit like a text file.
That's
with all
technically
the
true
settings.
of any game.
Well, no, but it was like just a plain text file. You could be like, I'm gonna make the opposing team named like Butts. Ha ha.
Kevin was a developed child.
Yes. All right.
So Proxima Centauri is a star in the Alpha Centauri system.
Right. Okay. Because yes, Alpha Centauri is a binary star system.
Correct.
Which means two-nary star system, Alex, for those who don't speak Latin. Or Greek, depending.
Kevin, you're it's a trinary star system. It's not two. It's a trinary star system. It's Alpha Centauri A, B, and Proxima Centauri.
So Proxima Centauri is the red dwarf.
Yes.
Now, red dwarfs I think red dwarfs. So actually,
it was a pretty good TV show made in Britain.
Yes. If I'm remembering correctly about different types of stars, this is one of the things here is that the habitable zone for red dwarfs is much further out.
No, much closer.
Oh, it's much closer.
Well, they're colder.
Right.
They're smaller and colder, so you have to be closer to get the right amount of heat.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about red giants. Never mind.
Yes, a red giant would have a much further out.
Though I would expect that you would have a lot more kind of false positives around a red giant if you were looking for things that are in the habitable zone, because there's a much broader band of area where you'd be looking and be like, hey, there's some rock. That's probably a habitable planet because it's in the right orbital range. So I guess maybe the fact that you found something about Proxima Centauri, which is a red dwarf, which has like a much narrower range.
Well, that's going to make it easier because the planet's going to be closer to the star.
It'll be easier to detect because it's going to block more of the star.
A higher percentage of the star, yeah.
But there are probably fewer of. It's a smaller area to be looking in, and so
that also helps.
You're probably going to have fewer false positives.
Yeah, but of course this study is apparently very unscientific, given it's an anonymous source.
Well, they are going to be speaking later this month, so we will have to come back and be like, "Oh, we'll have to watch that live stream." What are your predictions, Alex?
My prediction is that they'll announce the planet because I'm involved and I've already named it.
Oh, right, okay.
So look forward to the announcement of planet alexbragdon.issocool.is.aplanet.awesome.com.org.http.me.
Yeah, you just keep getting takedown requests, don't you?
It's worse than the Pirate Bay, man. I don't know.
Well, I am curious now. So let me ask you this: what are your thoughts on science leaks like this?
Well, I don't know.
Like, I don't know anything about Der Spiegel, so I don't know. Like, is this a very credible place where it's like, oh wow, well if they are publishing this leak, they clearly have credibility. Like, I don't know, but just in general, like, because there's always some of this stuff. Like, you get some of this out of the Hadron Collider, and there's some NASA leaks and stuff where everyone's like, oh, we found something. We're gonna find out soon, and sometimes it seems to be overhyped.
Right, which is the problem.
Yeah.
So because then people get all excited for things that don't happen. I don't know. I don't really have a thought either way. I like them, but I don't really know if they have a measurable impact on what people think of the science community as a whole. If they did have a measurable impact, then I would say no, but because I don't think they actually do, I'm sort of like, whatever.
Here's the one thing that I seem to notice.
Okay.
And that is that when you have leaks like this, everyone gets super hyped and like, new Earth, new Earth, new Earth. They get excited.
And then when it gets confirmed, no one says anything.
When it gets retracted, nobody says anything.
Yeah. So it leads to a lot of false information. I could see that.
In just the sense that the retraction stories are not super exciting. Like, you can spin it as science is flawed and evil leakers, and like that can be a hype story, maybe. You can spin a story about like the corruption of science and blah, as being something to spread around. But generally, like, it's not like hey, so earlier we reported this. Turns out that's not the case.
Yeah.
Sorry. Like, that's not a story that's going to go as broad. And so it does make me a little bit concerned about kind of scientific communication, how that works. At the same time, I also don't entirely know how either, because it's so often that there's like, hey, we've done something and we're sure, like, because there have been a couple of these where, yeah, someone has said, hey, this is real, and then it turns out to be real after a while. Yeah, and I'm wondering, is that a case where it's real, but it's not scientifically credible at the time that they leaked it? Or is it a case where they're waiting for some sort of scientific event where they've scheduled to propose it, which then frustrates me. I'm like, as soon as you know, say something. Like if there's artificial delays for like PR reasons, then I'm frustrated.
No, I agree. I mean, when the gravity waves sort of big announcement-y thingamadoo-dad was coming out, there was a leak that came out about a week or so before that had said like, ooh, they did on it. They found gravity waves. They did it.
Right.
And the explanation that was given when it finally came out is that they were waiting for like quadruple awesome confirmation before they came out and announced it. So I think,
and that's fine. Like if you haven't hit quadruple awesome, then the leakers don't know what science is. Like it speaks poorly on the leakers, and like if this hasn't reached a reasonable standard, then you're leaking it before it is true, according to the field that you're in. So then at the time that they leaked it, it's not confirmed, and so it's misrepresented. But it feels like there are some times where stuff is confirmed, and it's just like, oh, but we were waiting for, I don't know, the awesome Geneva Space Convention report rocketry.
On the sun.
On the sun. Wow.
Yeah. It's a pretty hot conference.
We're done here. We can just kind of pack up and go eat Smurfs.
And how are we going to get to the Smurf shop? We're going to go in a car.
Well done. You're on point with your transition.
I'm on fire, as you might say.
Oh man,
fire like the sun isn't.
Yes, actually, I should throw this out there. If you do have some sound clips that you think should be on the podcast, maybe send them our way, and we'll see what we can do. Of course, if they're copyrighted at all, then we won't use them because I'm really scared about copyright.
Happy birthday? No, wait, that's not copyright.
It's not copyrighted anywhere. That is public domain. Finally, they finally realized that it's there's the one guy who invented birthdays, but it's now 70 years past his death. So,
okay, so I had this really awesome transition, but it's kind of gotten destroyed by whatever we're talking about.
You know, what we should
anyway,
do, Alex,
so self-driving cars.
You know what we should do, Alex?
What?
We should call an Uber and have them take us back
in time.
To the
they can't do that yet. I don't think they have any DeLoreans in the fleet.
Okay, so self-driving cars.
A thing now.
Totally a thing now.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're done here.
But more than that, I mean, self-driving cars have been a thing for a while, sort of.
I guess. I saw a bunch of them in California, but yeah.
Oh, fine. I've been to California.
You've been to California more times than I have.
Okay, so according to an article on Bloomberg, and I've been meaning to put I thought I copied this in, by Max Chafkin.
Do you know him?
I don't know. I don't. Oh, no, okay. I just put it into the middle here. All right, fine. Starting later this month, Uber will allow customers in downtown Pittsburgh to summon self-driving cars from their phones, crossing an important milestone that no automotive or technology company has yet achieved, writes Max Chafkin for Bloomberg. Uber's Pittsburgh fleet. Uber's Pittsburgh fleet, which will be supervised by humans in the driver's seat for the time being, consists of specially modified Volvo XC90 sports utility vehicles outfitted with dozens of sensors that use cameras, lasers, radar, and GPS receivers. Volvo cars, I don't know. Volvo Cars has so far delivered a handful, not a large handful, but a handful.
A regular handful.
A handful of vehicles out of a total of 100 due by the end of the year.
I want this job.
So yeah, self-driving fleet of cars in Pittsburgh, potentially 100 of them on the road by the end of the year. So many questions.
Like?
Okay. One, how is this legal in any way?
Because the driver is still ultimately responsible.
Sort of.
The Google cars have been driving around for ages, and all they needed is a person sitting behind the wheel. It's the same thing. It's no different.
They also go into the article that basically the drivers of the cars will ignore you. Like they're
really want this job.
They're setting up a tablet in the back to sort of explain to the people, like, this is a self-driving car prototype, and it will like let the user know, like, oh, now a person's driving briefly and now it's back to the car and things like that. But the idea is that the people monitoring the cars, like, there's going to be a partition that's like, no, we want people to get used to the idea of like, you can't talk to the driver because eventually there won't be any driver there. So I have two big questions.
Mm-hmm.
One, if I'm ever in Pittsburgh, why am I in Pittsburgh? But secondly, can I call an Uber and explicitly not? Like, can I say, give me an Uber that is not of the self-driving variety, please?
Why not?
Well, because of the second question.
Okay.
Why, if you're rolling this out, the how is this legal thing is a whole other thing. But the second question is, if you're rolling this out, why are you rolling this out in an area with snow and rain?
Because that's where it's going to be the most difficult. So you want to prove your technology.
Yeah. I could see the argument for testing things that don't involve regular consumers. I could see like testing these automated cars
human behind
while being empty.
Far safer.
No.
Far safer.
No.
It's a human plus a computer. You're far better off than just a human. I
suspect I am very much not alone in being the type of person that would be very terrified if an Uber showed up and it's like, oh, it's a self-driving Uber.
Yeah, you're in a minority, Kevin. You're in the minority of the future. You're like Bones McCoy. You won't go in the teleporter.
I will not go in the teleporter.
Yeah, but like, imagine the teleporter doesn't rip you to pieces and put you back together again. Imagine it's just a car that drives you places.
Oh,
that's
okay.
Your teleporter.
To be fair, I don't like getting in cars in general. I don't like cars with human drivers. I don't like cars with robot drivers.
I also found out
I haven't been in cars with robot drivers, but I don't like them on principle because they are also cars.
How about buses with robot drivers?
Ooh.
Because Finland has those.
Finland does have those. They just rolled this out, and I saw that story somewhere. If you were going to bring that up, you should have put it in the show notes, Alex.
I figure you read all my tweets.
Okay,
close enough.
Yeah, but I've been doing a good job of pulling out these pull quotes so that we don't spend a bunch of time going like, well, so here's the thing. I just wanted to bring up is like if you had some electrons that wanted to be friends, but then couldn't always be friends.
That's not what a transistor is at all.
Exactly. This is the problem. When we try
an electronically triggered light switch. It's an electronically triggered light switch. That's all a transistor is.
No, that's not true. Because
you have a transistor.
No, see, Alex, it's actually much smaller than that. I think you're confused. So a light switch
not
is
in the beginning.
The
first transistors were bigger than light switches.
Oh boy. Okay, so what are your thoughts on this self-driving car business?
I love it. Uber business. Great. They should get rid of the humans and not tell anyone.
Well, I suppose if you block out the partition.
Right.
Oh God, that'd be just awful.
A/B testing, baby. A/B testing.
Oh man. Well, okay.
Alex,
so here's another thing
to clear that up.
So you've used Uber, of course, I assume.
Of course, yes.
Yes.
I lived in California.
That's okay. That's fair. I used Uber on very rare occasion. It was usually when I had to fly out of LaGuardia because there's not a train to LaGuardia.
There is a plane though.
There is a plane to LaGuardia. There is a
Quite
bus,
a few of
but
them.
I tried to take the bus once and missed my flight, so I don't take the bus to LaGuardia. I take the bus back from LaGuardia.
Why didn't you just take a flight, a bus to JFK, and then a flight from JFK to LaGuardia?
There are not flights from JFK to LaGuardia, which is really frustrating.
There's repositioning flights.
What?
There are repositioning flights.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So you just have to like pretend to be luggage or something.
I live near a helipad. I should have looked and seen if I could just fly into LaGuardia that way.
You can get Uber helicopters in some countries.
Actually, in New York for a while, there was a Thanksgiving special where they would pick you up, drive you to a helipad, and fly you out to Martha's Vineyard. So for all of the rich, crazy New York people.
I love Martha's Vineyard. You should have done that.
Why is she the only person who gets a vineyard? I don't understand that whole thing. Anyway, so this...
Picard has one too.
Well, so here is the thing that frustrated me about Uber. Generally speaking, it was great. But the really difficult part about Uber was trying to find the car when it's there to pick you up. Yeah.
mean, they give you a picture and like, this is what color it is and this is what model it is.
This is a black car. I'm like, oh, great. That's very helpful.
I guess I just got lucky. I used to get like multicolored Priuses all the time.
Ah, okay.
So like here's a powder blue Prius. Well, that's pretty obvious.
Part of it though is that generally I was in downtown areas when I was booking stuff, so there were lots of cars everywhere and lots of black cars everywhere. And not all of the Ubers always had the sticker in prominent locations. I also am a bit nearsighted and don't always wear glasses around, so it's a little bit difficult to see. And so that was very frustrating. Like, and so I'd end up, the driver would end up calling and have to explain like where he is. And I'd be like, okay, I'll walk over there and get in the car. That's fine.
Taxi
with a self-driving car. That's difficult. And but there's always even when you've got it, like maybe I'm just weird, but even when an Uber gets there and you're like, this is definitely mine. This is mine. There are people standing around. There are other cars driving by, but this one is the one that's for me.
There's just always, paranoid.
No, there's always
just get in the car.
There's a moment where you're like pulling open the passenger. You're like, what if this is just some random car? And I'm just opening the passenger door to some random car. Or
well, if it doesn't have a driver, it would probably have far more prominent logos on it.
Maybe, but even then, it's still because the Uber drivers will ask you. They'll say, "Oh, are you Kevin?" I'll be like, "Yes."
The car will ask you.
No, but the fact that they have to ask means that sometimes people do get this thing wrong. Because if it wasn't a problem, people wouldn't have to ask. They'd be like, "Oh yeah, perfect, let's move." It'll
just use the Bluetooth radio in your phone to unlock the car if it's
Ooh.
you.
But still, then you're walking up to a car. Nope.
Well, sure, but you couldn't get it. Kevin, you're making up problems for that don't exist. Just use the car.
Okay, well, here's the other thing. I don't know what self-driving looks like in a Volvo XC90.
It looks like driving a regular Volvo X9C.
I don't know what the ratings are. I don't know what it looks
12.
like compared to Tesla.
12 out of 12.
The thing that if I were a car driving person, I would feel more comfortable about self-driving with my own car. I would not feel comfortable with, unless I knew kind of the details about the self-driving for all of the different manufacturers out there. If that makes sense.
I guess, but it's any computer is going to be better than a human.
I don't think that's true, Alex.
Any computer. You throw a Raspberry Pi in the front driver's seat, duct tape it to the gas pedal, better than a human.
Alex, I'm very confident that I can program a self-driving car program that is worse than the average human. Worse than a drunken average human.
I don't
Worse
agree.
than Florida Man, Alex. I can program a self-driving car program worse than Florida Man.
I don't agree. Random chance just won't allow it.
Oh, man. Okay, so you're excited about this?
I am very excited about this. I want it here yesterday.
I really don't understand how you roll this out with snow.
With tires. That's how cars move. Tires. Duh. That's how you roll out any car, Kevin.
Wow.
Get with the program.
Speaking of new programs. Transition.
Are we going to C++?
NASA is launching a new program.
It's a compiler, actually.
What?
It's kind of it. C++.
No, NASA is not launching a compiler, Alex.
I'm sure it has. It launches compilers all the time.
It launches, yes, okay, good.
I mean, I'm pretty sure on every flight there's a compiler on board.
Oh, man.
What?
Well,
they're running
not until the space shuttle, maybe, possibly. There's possibly not. They possibly did not launch a compiler.
There were a lot of space shuttle flights.
Actually, I'm not even sure about the space shuttle though, because they were feeding in.
I mean, they had laptops on them eventually.
Well, yes, and yeah, okay, fine.
They've launched many compilers. That's all I'm saying.
All right. But the reason that I make this topic transition.
What transition? Where are we going?
Thank you. Peter Dockrell, writing for ScienceAlert.com, which is another great...
alert.
Science! Oh, no!
Alert! Red alert. It's a read alert.
Yes. Writes that NASA just announced that any published research funded by the space agency will now be available at no cost, launching a new public web portal that anyone can access. The article goes on to say, NASA's move comes in as a response to the 2013 request from the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy, which directed major science funding agencies to come up with ways of increasing access to the results of publicly funded research.
So I have a problem with this.
Of course you do. Okay, why? Lay out your problems with this.
So it says no cost, but there's clearly a cost involved. Like the energy to move your eyeballs to read the information is like nothing.
I tell you what, Alex, we could be like the audible.com for science.
Doesn't matter. You got to generate electricity in the ears, and it takes electricity in the brain to process it. Like it's costs something.
No. Not you misunderstand. We will go to people's houses and read the papers aloud to them.
Yeah, but like that takes like processing in the brain. You can't understand
it's unavoidable
or learn this
processing in the brain. Ooh, now I'm curious. If you had a person that was doing nothing else, like if you assume that just like completely resting, and they're not paying attention, but you play no sound versus playing a lot of sound, does it consume more calories to listen to a lot of sound or not a lot of sound?
Oh, what? Sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
Thanks, Alex. Appreciate
it. It probably consumes like not a lot. It probably consumes less.
It's probably not.
It probably consumes less calories. If you could measure it, it would probably consume less calories. I would wager.
To listen to loud things?
Yeah.
Really?
Maybe. I bet the brain would start like tuning things out. And
the brain definitely does start tuning stuff out.
And because it was too loud. And that's my wager. Well, I could be horribly wrong.
But I mean, okay, like if your brain doesn't engage with it, so it's not trying to understand it. So like, let's imagine
just tuning it out.
So
yeah,
like a human listening to silence versus listening to someone talking a language that they don't understand, and they're not actively trying to decipher or get clues about.
Right.
Is there a difference? I presume that your brain is still, even if you're trying to ignore it, it's going to spend some processing power trying to go, what the heck is those noises?
Well, I bet only if you started paying attention to it. Like
no, I think there's even like a passive. There's some passive awareness.
Someone with very sensitive equipment and a brain, get back to us. And a guy who can speak another language that you can borrow.
I think I just found
another and a silent room.
I just found another sound clip. Someone with very sensitive equipment and a brain, get back to us.
Yes.
All right.
That's what we need in this situation. What are we talking about anyway?
I don't know. Okay. Anyway, so NASA is now releasing all of their publicly funded research. The idea, well, all of their, not all. There's still.
This is the source code for the SLS. Go ahead and build your own. Open sourced it.
Yes. So the idea behind this is that, and I was looking into this because for a while I was looking at some of the laws. There is an act, a congressional act, Alex, is called the Fair Access to Science and Technology Research Act.
I thought it was going to be the one to re-energize the Martian magnetosphere.
No. Sadly, that seems to have fizzled out.
Are you sure? How many signatures does it have, Kevin?
I do not know.
I have no idea either.
Okay. Well, anyway, so the Fair Access to Science and Technology Research Act would mandate earlier public release of taxpayer-funded research. The idea being that if we are publicly paying with taxpayer dollars for research, then it can be published in journals, but a year after it's released, it needs to be available to the public. You know, the people who paid for the research.
And I think that's perfect.
Everybody.
That's a very good amount of time.
I think that's too long of an amount of time. But anyway, so this act was introduced in 2013. And this is actually not the first version of this act. There was an initial act.
Act 1, you might say.
Initial act, the Federal Research Public Access Act.
Act I.
Which was proposed in 2006, and then again in 2010, and then again in 2012. Because you know what Congress doesn't like doing, Alex? Passing good laws.
No, I mean I'm pretty sure they don't like flying into the sun. They haven't done that.
That also.
So I'm pretty sure
I don't know. I don't know that if they've passed
Congress will fly into the sun law.
Or I don't know that they've even passed a statement asserting their aversion to flying into the sun.
Yeah, that's true.
But anyway, so this bill basically has been heavily fought by who else, Alex, but academic journals.
Oh,
Those
I thought it would have been Superman.
Wonderful people. So, yes, this bill it was introduced 2006, 2010, 2012. Did not really get off the ground. The Fair Access to Science and Technology Research Act is the new, rebranded, and the acronym is FASTER, which is funny because it was introduced in 2013 and then reintroduced in 2015.
Well, that was faster than 2006 to 2010.
Well,
so they succeeded.
Except, so this has made it through committee.
Okay.
And that's all that has ever happened with this bill.
Is that the party planning party committee?
No, it is the the Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs committee.
That's a boring committee. Let's go with the party planning committee.
All right, but anyway, so this made it out of committee. This is something you should be, because this is it says on the Wikipedia page the FASTER has been described as the other Aaron's Law, named for open access activist Aaron Swartz, who you are a big fan of.
I am.
So you should be super hyped about this bill. The sad thing, yeah, this bill made it out of committee. Everyone's like, yeah, we should totally make this a law. Back in, I think it was March. Maybe when it made it out of committee.
I do not get excited about laws until they're passed.
Yeah. One of the things that has happened, though, as a result of this, is that the White House then issued a directive to the federal agencies saying, hey, you should figure out how to make this work if this does go into law. Yeah. And it seems that NASA's decision to be like, hey, you know what? And you know how Congress, we're going to not wait for them to do Congress.
We'll just do it anyway.
We're just going to do it because it's the freaking right thing to do.
And there's no law against doing it.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, there's definitely no law. Yes, there is no law preventing publicly funded agencies from giving information to the public.
Right. Which would be
giving
crazy.
Publicly funded research information to the public that paid for it.
Yeah.
There is no law against that yet.
But maybe.
We will have to see.
The lame duck Congress is coming up.
But yes, so all of the research is going to be published and available at no cost, which is going to be pretty cool.
Except there is a cost, but we won't get into that.
Yeah, hosting costs, man. It's expensive.
Yeah.
Taxpayers you got to pay for bandwidth
and taxes.
Oh, taxes.
And Texas.
And Texas, yeah.
Because
good old Texas. I do wonder, the people who have the Texan accent, how do you distinguish between Texas and Texas?
You just did it.
Well, yeah, but I don't have that accent.
You had it when you said that.
The only sure thing is death in Texas. Now you have no idea what the sure thing is.
It's taxes.
Okay.
I've read my Thoreau.
Anyway, okay.
Is he even the one who said that?
I don't think so. No.
Who did say that?
You talk so I can Google.
Okay. So I live in Massachusetts, so I live next to where Thoreau used to live. So that's pretty nifty. Yeah, I've been there.
Uh-huh.
I'd live in his house, actually.
Oh, brilliant.
I've just remodeled it a little bit from the shack that it once was.
All right, so Wikipedia does say that it does at least cite to Benjamin Franklin in 1789. Though it feels like the death in Texas is an expression that could be...
cited to Thoreau? Good.
Well, no, that could be much earlier.
You could cite it to Thoreau.
So Benjamin Franklin, in a letter to Jean-Baptiste Leroy, says, our new constitution is now established and has an appearance that promises permanency, but in this world, nothing can be said to be certain except death and taxes.
What is this podcast?
What?
What is this podcast?
This podcast is amazing. This
Benjamin
is the
Franklin,
podcast.
The Benjamin Franklin Files. That's the name of this podcast.
I would listen to that podcast, all right? I don't know what you're talking about.
Geniusness.
Anyway, so there are some exemptions to what NASA's going to be able to publish. Obviously, things that have, national security concerns. So, NASA's not going to be like, hey, we made a nuke rocket. Yay, here's the... They're also, because they deal with a lot of private contractors, this is one area, and this is one where I'm actually a little bit frustrated, but when they contract stuff out, even though it's NASA that is paying for the development of some of this stuff, the private companies still retain patent and
that's because of the
Rights.
contracts.
Right.
The contracts stipulate that. So NASA needs to be more aggressive in signing contracts.
Well, there are some rules with public universities in dealing with contracting that there's sort of this idea that, because things are This is more to do with like things like accessibility standards. That if a public university contracts anybody to do anything, whether it's build them a web portal or whatever, that work still needs to correspond to the same accessibility standards. I love to see the same sort of thing exist with this sort of policy. That basically, yeah, if it's funded by public money, then
I agree. We've talked about this before.
You have to. The private companies need to assign the rights.
But I think NASA might get a cheaper rate on some things by letting them keep the patents and that type of stuff.
Maybe. Although
I would have to imagine there would have to be some upside for NASA for letting them.
Yeah, no, I mean there is, but
I don't know, man. I don't know. All I know is that we need to build a giant rocket and send it to Alex Bragdon is the greatest .planet .ever .is-a-planet .totally is-a-planet .cool.co.uk
csn.snbc.me.z5.org.gov.me.left.me.
We're
done here. We can just kind of pack up and go eat Smurfs.